Good morning. Good morning and welcome to worship here with us at the United Church of Gainesville, where we say and really mean no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome with us here. You can tell that the holidays are almost over because there is a plethora of things happening at UCG. Not that they really slowed down Christmas Eve, but there was a week there where it got calm. I invite you to take a moment and look at all of the announcements in your bulletin, and I will highlight just a few for you. First, if you've been visiting UCG for the first time today or for quite a while, you're invited to join Reverend Bromley McClanagan in the library, which is just past the coffee on the right, for a visitor's time and discussion after worship. Our Sunday seminars will begin again today with Paul Pritchard, and you can read about his incredible CV in the bulletin a bit. And Paul will be leading a seminar today on the real cost of war, just across the courtyard and in Reimer Hall. If you are not in either of those places and are willing to help our Board of Parish Ministry take down our Christmas decor, you can meet Pam and Hannah just outside the sanctuary. They have signage this year. You will not believe how organized and also fun this project will be. Also, small group submissions begin today, and so as you consider groups that you may be willing to lead, or perhaps someone you would like to nudge to lead one, today is the day to begin doing that. Our Racial Justice Committee is organizing for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day, and you can read about joining them in the march on Monday, January 15th. And also, they are in the courtyard today. Jessica is modeling here with both t-shirts and buttons that you can wear for this upcoming event and, any other day you choose. Finally, the Lively Arts Committee has a show in the library that you may have missed throughout all of the holiday festivities, but today is the last day to view it. It will come down this week. And so as you're passing through, you may want to take a moment to tour through the library and see some works that are all fine arts done by members of our Lively Arts Committee. And I said finally, but there's actually one more finally. Our wonderful Philip, our accompanist, texted this morning that he was having car trouble and wouldn't be able to get here this morning, and we have so much incredible talent among us that we got it all covered. And so a huge thank you to the musicians who already had planned to play today and are taking up a bit more. Sherelle Hicks will be leading the prelude. David will be leading the Star Carol. And my father, Wayne Raymond, will be leading our hymns and happy birthday and things. So thank you to all who stepped in to make sure this morning went without a hitch. And now, I'd like to invite our moderator, Jeremy Archer, to come forward. Oh, he's right there and ready.
Is this on? Thank you. I hope you've checked your email this week, but if not, that's okay. I'm here to talk about the supplemental pledge campaign we started earlier this week. And I stand before you both as someone who has loved and been shaped by this church for over 40 years, but also as moderator, someone who understands a little more now the complexities and challenges of how the church works. From 1965 to 1988, we had a single minister serving 62 to 259 church members. From roughly 1989 to 1997, we had two ministers serving 309 up to 485 people. And for the last 25 years, since about 1997, we've had 3 or even 4 ministers serving a membership ranging from 520 up to 716. After a period of congregational discernment through the spring, summer, and early fall, we decided together to continue with the three-minister configuration that has served our needs and our community's needs so well for so long. We knew it would not be easy. Everything has gotten more expensive. That includes keeping our church going strong. And when I say going strong, I'm not just talking about keeping the lights on. I'm talking about everything we do, everything we are. We want you to know as church leaders that we are doing our best to take advantages of the opportunities to seek financial support and income from other sources and lighten the load on our members, including parking, the long-term benefit of the solar panels, and looking ahead to future years. How can we look at increased rental income, other programs that might help? For now, we're so close, within 8% of our goal. And make no mistake about it, if we don't meet the budget and we're not able to call a third minister this coming year, we will put our heads and our hearts together, and we will move forward as a community in love and in faith. Our good work will not cease, but UCG will look and feel different, with 2 ministers to support the programming and the congregation that has been supported by 3 or 4 ministers for the past 25 years. We know this has been a hard few years for many families, devastating for some. If you are not able to give financially this year, know that you are loved and welcomed and valued. If you pledged but simply cannot give anymore, know that you are loved and welcomed and valued. But if you can find a way to make a supplemental pledge, perhaps 8, 10, or even 15% more than you originally planned, please do. And if you haven't fulfilled your pledge from 2023, it is not too late. Every bit helps. Every dollar is important. Today we're asking for your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Now, as we move together into a time of worship, Sherelle will play the prelude for us, and then Mary Fukuyama and Sherelle will read a reading that comes from Jan Richardson, a poem written from an Irish custom called Women's Christmas, which also happens on Epiphany. Jan Richardson writes each year a retreat around Women's Christmas, and many of the poems I'm using today are from that ritual. And so now, let us as beloved community take a deep breath together.
Wise women also came. The fire burned in their wombs long before they saw the flaming star in the sky. They walked in shadows, trusting the path would open under the light of the moon.
Wise women also came, seeking no directions, no permission from any king. They came by their own authority, their own desire, and their own longing. They came in quiet, spreading no rumors, sparking no fears to lead to innocent slaughter, to their sister Rachel's inconsolable lamentations.
Wise women also came, and they brought useful gifts: water for labor's washing, fire for warm illumination, a blanket for swaddling.
Wise women also came, at least 3 of them, holding Mary in the labor, crying out with her in the birth pangs, breathing ancient blessings into her ear.
Wise women also came, and they went, as wise women always do, home a different way. So we'll sing Star Carol that's in your songbooks, page 101.
Leading us. Let's see. I'd like to invite all of the children and anyone else who'd like to come forward for a story together. I know it's good, Frida and Georgia and your babies are here. That is great. I was wondering, since school started tomorrow, how many friends I might have this morning. You have Hello Kitty, and Hello Kitty has a unicorn horn. How cool is that? And Georgia, you brought your baby. Does your baby have a name? Emily. Well, welcome, Emily.
And his name is Hello Kitty Chloe.
And Hello Kitty Chloe. All right, so we have Georgia and Emily and Frida and Hello Kitty Chloe. I'm glad you're all here today.
There's only 2 people left.
Only 2 people. All right. Well, this morning I have a story to read you about a very special holiday that was actually yesterday. Does anyone know what day that might be? It happens 12 days after Christmas, and it's called Epiphany. It is the day we celebrate the Magi's arrival. So though we already did it in the Christmas pageant, our camel already came. But today, we are going to celebrate the story of the Magi's arrival. And this is a really cool telling, I thought. You can tell me what you think when we're done. And I only have this book on Kindle, so I promise I'm not scrolling. The words are on my phone today, on my Kindle app. Okay. I know, but you can see the pictures right up there. Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, all good stories start like that, huh? Or many anyway. There were 3 very wise men who were sitting in their own countries, minding their own business, when a bright star lodged in the right eye of each one of them. The star was so bright that none of them could tell whether it was burning in the sky or in their own imaginations. But they were wise enough to know that it did not matter all that much. The point was, something beyond them was calling them, and it was a tug they had been waiting for all their lives. All right, we can skip, there we go. Each in his own country had tried books, tried magic, tried astrology. One had lived on nothing but dried herbs boiled in water. Another had spent his entire fortune learning how to read and write in an ancient language. The third had learned to walk on hot coals, though it did nothing for him beyond the great sense of relief he felt at the end. Despite their best efforts, all 3 of them still felt something was missing. What do you think? They were all glad for a reason to get out of town, which was clearly where the star was calling them. Out, away from everything they knew how to manage and survive. Out from under the reputations they had built for themselves, the high expectations, and the disappointing returns. And so they set out one by one, each believing that he was the only one with a star in his eye, until they all ran into each other on the road to Jerusalem. Where are they going? Where do you think? Let's see if you can figure it out before they do. From a distance, each thought the other to be a mirage at first, a twinkling reflection made of vapor and heat. But as they drew nearer to one another, they saw the star they had in common, like a tattoo or a secret handshake. Do you have those with your friends? Secret handshake? Yeah, those are fun. No, maybe you and your sister, your big sister, can come up with one today. A secret handshake, something that made them brothers before they spoke. They all believed that the star was leading them to Jerusalem. This made perfect sense because they had every reason to believe that they were on their way to meet a king. Let's see. They had no trouble gaining entrance to the palace. They looked rich, and that was enough to get them a royal audience. But the king they met was something of a disappointment. He was lumpy and rumpled, and he had terrible breath. His skin looked a funny orange color and sickly, as if his bile had gotten the best of him. The guards on either side of him shook in fear of the king, so much that their spears rattled against their shields. Without even comparing notes, the wise men knew he was not the person they were looking for. Do you know of any other kings in the general area? They asked him. Let's see. He had been picking at his fingernails until then, letting them know how very bored he was. But their question got his attention. He looked right at them for the first time. That was when he saw the star in each of their eyes. His own eyes grew perfectly round, like the eyes of a snake. The king asked the wise men if they would please excuse him for a moment. Then he stepped into his private chapel to confer with his clergy. They whipped out their old reference books, which smelled of mold, and told the king what he wanted to know.
Yes, they said, there was something in the book of Micah about a new ruler for Israel, but nothing to get excited about. It was short. It had been there a long time. It was unlikely that the men in the other room were fulfilling that prophecy. Oh, let's see. But sure, why not? Send the wise men to Bethlehem to, check it out. Save the king a little money instead of doing his own research. So that's what the king did. He gargled, combed his hair, and went back to tell the wise men that they should go to Bethlehem at once with his blessing, on one condition, that they come back and tell him who his successor was, so he could send flowers to the new king. Yeah. His breath smelled like pine sol when he said it, which made the wise men feel queasy. They knew something was not right, but once they were back out in the night air, they could see that star in the sky again, and it set their minds at rest. Let's see. Where are they? Where do you think? They followed it right where? At a barn, maybe, or even a house. They followed it right to the doorway of a one-room house in Bethlehem. Luckily, they've left the barn by now. They're somewhere a little more stable. I made a pun, didn't I? All right. It was a perfectly nice place, modest but well-built, though not the kind of place where they expected to find a king. A dog was sniffing the woodpile under the eaves in hopes of a mouse. Someone was practicing the lute next door, going over the same notes again and again. The smell of dinner was in the air. Wheat cakes cooked on a griddle greased with sheep's fat. Lentils with lots of garlic and rice. The place looked so simple that they might never have chosen it themselves. But since the star had chosen it for them, they knocked. When the door opened, the couple standing behind it almost died of fright. Not that the wise men noticed. With their arms full of gifts, they crowded into the small space, bumping their turbans on the rafters and snagging their robes on the rough furniture. All they could see was the baby, who was not afraid, and whose right eye shone with the same star they saw before they even left home. It was him, then, whoever he was. They did not have a clue, but they knew what to do. They got on their knees and they bowed their heads. Then they gave him the things they had brought for him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. All the wrong things they could see now, things he had no use for. They should have brought him goat's milk, a warm blanket, something shiny to hang above his crib. But how could they have guessed? The child's parents were gracious. They thanked the strangers for the expensive gifts and held them up for the baby to see. Then, to the wise men's complete surprise, the child's mother picked him up and handed him around. So each of them held that damp, soft, living weight in their arms. When they were finished admiring him, she took her baby back, nursed him, and put him to bed. Then, before the light coming through the window of the house had entirely gone out, the three wise men fell asleep right where they sat. In the morning when they woke, the wise men could not find their stars anywhere. They searched each other's eyes, but the stars were gone. Frantically, they looked in all the corners and under all the chairs. The baby's mother even shook out his blankets, but still, no stars. No stars. Soon the wise men calmed down and said, "Never mind. We don't need them anymore. They already found what they were looking for, something they could not lose." As much as they hated to, they added, they had better be on their way. They would not be going back through Jerusalem, they said. All three of them had woken from the same identical dream, warning them to steer clear of that city. If anyone in Jerusalem knew anything at all, they would be here instead of there. Besides, none of the wise men's old maps worked anymore. They would just have to find a new way home. So the wise men picked up their packs, which were lighter than before. Then they lined up in front of the baby to thank him for the gifts the baby had given to them. What kind of gifts might that be? Yeah, the star and the love and his presence, yeah. What in the world are you talking about? The baby's mother said, laughing. For the scent and weight and skin of a baby, said the first wise man, who had no interest in living on herbs anymore. For this home and the love here, said the second wise man, who could not remember how to say it in the ancient language. For a really great story, said the third wise man, who thought that telling it might do a lot more for him than walking on hot coals. Then the wise men walked outside, stretched, kissed the baby goodbye, and went home by another way. The end. The end. The end. You already knew that story pretty well, huh? Because you all helped tell it, didn't you, during the pageant? Yeah. It's a really good story. And when I was thinking about that story this week, because something about stories that we tell over and over, every time we tell it, sometimes we learn something new. And when I was reading it this week, I was thinking about choices. Ooh, we have a strobe light effect happening in the front here, don't we? Oh, that's fancy. Maybe there's a star up there. Yeah. All right. Do your parents ever say to you, make good choices? Yup. Yup. My parents said that to me too. And you know what? Parents are right when they say that. And when I was reading this story this week, I was thinking about those magi, that they made a lot of good choices. They chose to take an adventure because they knew it was the right thing to do. And they knew when they got to that sweet baby not to just say, oh, that can't be the king. No, because they knew that children know things and can be wise and wonderful, just like grown-ups, right? And then on their way home, they made another good choice. They chose not to tell someone who they thought could be dangerous to that baby where he was, right? They decided to keep that to themselves and go home and teach things in a different way, to be people of peace and love. And that's something we talk a lot about here, that when we make our choices, we know that the good choices are ones that are what? Are they kind? Yeah. What else might they be? When you make a good choice, why do you make a good choice?
I don't know.
You don't know. Because you know. I think you do know. Because somewhere in your beautiful heart, you know it's the right thing to do and the loving thing to do. And I'm so glad that we have leaders like you here at our church to teach us things about love and kindness. All right. Yeah. Yeah. When you do something good, it comes with good consequences. That's right. I believe that's true. Thank you. See, I knew you had wise things to tell us this morning. Thank you. All right. So, shall we do something good and kind and celebrate some people today? Yeah. Do either of you have a birthday today or this week? No, not this time. All right. Shall we check over here on the Fifth Avenue side? Anybody over here have a birthday today or this week? Oh, we have two friends. And your names are? Kirk and Taylor. Any others? Okay, how about on the piano side? Oh, two more friends. Stephen and Mary. Let us all sing happy birthday for Kirk, Taylor, Stephen, and Mary. Next door with your teachers.
This song tells us another story about heading home. Those magic men with magi, some people call them wise, or oriental, even kings. Well, anyway, those guys, they've visited with Jesus. They sure enjoyed their stay. Then, warned in a dream of King Herod's scheme, they went home by another way. Yes, they went home by another way. Home by another way. Maybe me and you can be wise guys too and go home by another way. We can make it another way. Say home, as they used to say. Keep the weather right to the chart on high and go home another way. Steer clear of royal presence, avoid a victor. A king who would slaughter the innocents will not cut a deal for you. He really wants those presents. He'll go over camel's fur till his boys announce they found trace amounts of the frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Time to go home by another way. Home by another way. We got this far to a lucky start. Tomorrow is another day. We can make it another way. Safe home, as they used to say. Keep the weather with the chart on high and go home another way. Sorry. This thing is not staying. It's a good segue. It's not going to stay. So. I tried.
Let me clip this right here. There we go, and I'll groove along.
Try that. Home is where they want you now. You can more or less assume that you'll be welcome in the end. Mustn't let King Herod haunt your soul or fantasize his features when you're looking at a friend. Well, it pleasures me to be here and to sing this song tonight. Tell me that life is a miracle, and I figure that they're right. But Herod's always out there, he's got our card on file. It's a lead pipe sin should be given in June. Old Herod wanna take a mile. Best to go home by another way. Home by another way. We got this far to a lucky start, but tomorrow is another day. We can make it another way. Safe home, as they used to say. Keep the weather right to the chart on high and go home another way. Go home another way.
Thank you.
Another reading from Jan Richardson, Those Stars That Turn in Us. I do not know how to keep it all together, or by what patterns this world might finally hold. What I know is that our hearts are bigger than this sky that wheels above us, and what shines through all this darkness shines through us, setting every shattered thing into a new constellation. And we can turn our faces to that light, to the grace of those stars that turn in us. We offer our response to this reading in song, as with gladness those of old. One verse.
From the prophet Isaiah. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of God has risen upon you. For darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the people. But God shall arise upon you, and God's glory will appear over you. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look around. They gather together. They come to you. Your son shall come from far away, and your daughters shall be carried on their nurses' arms. Then you shall see and be radiant. Your heart shall thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea shall be brought to you. The wealth of the nations shall come to you. A multitude of camels shall cover you. The young camels of Midian and Ephah, all those from Sheba will come. They shall bring gold and frankincense and shall proclaim the praise of God. As I mentioned to the children, following the 12th day of Christmas on January 5th, yesterday marked the official celebration of the Epiphany. The day we celebrate the arrival of the Magi, guided by a brilliant star, to the home of Jesus and their delivery of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This story is only told in the Gospel of Matthew and has all the markings of an interpretive sermon developed from the passage in Isaiah that I just read for you. In Isaiah's account of the coming of the Messiah, the house of David, Bethlehem, will be glorified. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn, bringing gold and frankincense. This is the core of the Magi story. Now, I know there's a tradition at UCG to name the fact that there is no donkey mentioned in the birth narrative, and I feel it necessary to point out there's actually no camels mentioned in the birth narrative either, but they are in Isaiah. A multitude of camels shall come. So the nativities are saved. You may have also noticed that in the Isaiah passage, gold and frankincense are mentioned, but the myrrh is missing. So where did Matthew get myrrh? Actually, also from the prophet Isaiah. In Jewish history, there is a recorded visit to another king of the Jews, King Solomon, who was visited by the Queen of Sheba. The queen was to have come on camels, bringing with her spices, including myrrh. Therefore, since Isaiah mentions that all those from Sheba shall come, it would invoke that image of spices being brought to honor the king, and so myrrh and camels. The only thing we managed to lose along the way was the queen. I'm glad we put the women back in the story today. Thank you, Mary and Sherelle. The story of the Epiphany evokes such a moment of hope and of promise, of powerful people searching and finding what they're looking for in an unlikely of places. A modest home with a carpenter and his radical wife and a small child. The story also holds quite a bit of tension as it's bookended by a character whose fear, envy, greed, and malice held the world on a knife's edge of violence and oppression. Perhaps that's why this story feels particularly poignant this year, the whole story. So far today, and we've only discussed the beginning and maybe into the middle of the story, the part I read to the children. The wise ones, inspired to travel following that star. Wise ones who knew better than to reveal details to a violent and cunning ruler, to wisely go home without crossing Herod's path again. And we usually stop our storytelling right there. We don't deal with the consequences of that wise decision. The Magi in the story saved the life of Jesus by not revealing his identity and whereabouts, giving his family time to escape. However, because Herod cannot dispose of the one baby he fears will loosen his grip on power, in the story, he does what tyrants and despots do and tries to wipe out all possible opposition. He orders in the Gospel of Matthew what is known as the massacre of the innocents. Here is the part of the story we don't like to read. It picks up right where we left off. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Now, after they left, an angel of God appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated. He sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. We have told that story at UCG. Recently, in fact, we sung it during lessons and carols in the Coventry Carol, that haunting minor key lullaby whose music uses a few devices to create a strange cognitive dissonance for us modern listeners. A lullaby supposedly sung by the mothers of Bethlehem to their doomed children. This carol was popular in the late Middle Ages, becoming increasingly connected with the nativity story, featuring in pageants, plays, church processions. And like many of our traditional carols, when you get into those later verses that we sometimes often skip, the words have a darker subtext. The Coventry Carol comes very near the end of those Middle Ages plays, a dramatic moment when the women rock their babies to sleep for fear Herod's soldier will hear them crying and murder them. When Philip chose this piece for lessons and carols this year, I don't think he could have known how timely it would be. When the massacre of the innocents, as told in the Gospel of Matthew, is widely understood to have never actually happened. Just like the Magi, this gospel account is only reference to this specific event. And it's also, like the Magi, likely a mashup of several different moments in Scripture You may remember the killing of the children in the story of Egypt at Passover, the weeping of Rachel, as mentioned in Isaiah. However, just because this event didn't happen exactly as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, word for word, doesn't make it untrue. The story is timeless. The massacre of innocents happens every day. War, occupation, poverty, lack of medical care, climate disaster, gun violence, the list goes on. The question remains for us the same question that was posed to the Magi: how can we go another way? When doing my research for the seminar during which I deconstructed some of these carols, I found an interview with David Stone, who is the worship minister at Coventry Cathedral, where this carol is sung annually. Reverend Stone said, "For me, the really special thing about the Coventry Carol is the way it was used in 1940. The cathedral was bombed on the 14th of November. And on Christmas Day that year, the then provost was broadcast live on the BBC to the whole world. His very famous message was that he was trying to forgive those who had done this terrible thing. And after that, the choir sang the Coventry Carol in the ruins of the old cathedral." He said the shadowy subject matter of the carol made it appropriate for Coventry. The theme of redemption following suffering is part of the Coventry story, he said. And this is part, he added, of what makes the carol so special. It connects with people's lives as they really are. Even though some of the words are a bit peculiar, they strike a chord with people today and express what Christmas is for us, both its bright, shining side and also its shadowy side. I always have to pick my sermon title before I actually write the sermon. And as I was considering all of this tension this year, all of the safe and also the shadowy sides of the season, all the pain and the suffering in the world, but also the joy so beautifully highlighted last week, I thought perhaps Epiphany is so much more than one moment where wise people meet a very special family. Perhaps Epiphany is instead a process toward understanding, toward peace in the wholeness of creation, toward finding another way. And if so, could we have some directions, please? While some characters in the story get dreams and angels to guide them, the Magi didn't. They got a star at first to follow, but when it came time to go home, they had only their own intuition and desire to do the right thing by the blessing they were given. Perhaps they went Isaiah's way, to the place where all people of all nations come together, rushing to bask in the glow where all oppression will cease and peace and justice are true and real and can be seen and heard and felt. We too can travel that road, knowing that the star we follow is one that brings goodness. We can go another way. My spouse asked me yesterday what I was sermonating on. That's our term for ruminating on a sermon. Yeah. So I answered that I was sermonating deeply about how humanity needed to go another way, that the road we collectively seem to be on keeps heading right back to the Herods of the world. He laughed and he said, in the tradition that he grew up in, the Mennonite tradition, another way is capitalized. That they're taught, beginning as very young children, that they are meant to go throughout their lives by another way. The Mennonites see three ways of being in the world: the way of violence, the way of passivity, and the way of Jesus, which is to them the way of nonviolent resistance. Capital another way is a path of nonviolent resistance. I think the paths of our traditions cross here. So in yet another year where the world is filled with fear and anxiety, how can we go another way? How can we choose a path that will mean safety and peace and care and all manner of goodness for all creation, that honors that love and joy that we know so deeply? I don't have the directions. An epiphany would be great, but I can trust in the wisdom of my and our collective experience, of the sacred stories we share. We can't know what this year will bring, but what we can do is what we have always done: put one foot in front of the other and trust our sacred, wise selves. Trust that we can do the next right thing. We can trust our companions, our chosen family, our family of faith, and trust that the road, as it always has been, will be made by walking it. We can trust in the guiding stars that may have been removed from our eyes, but have taken up residence in our souls. Historian Dale Allison Jr. explained that in ancient times, stars were thought to be living beings. Philo, the first-century Jewish philosopher, wrote that stars are living creatures, but of a kind composed entirely of mind. Could it be that our radiance is, in fact, composed of our mindfulness? I hope you all received a star when you came in today. If you didn't, perhaps give a little wave and went, oh good, everybody's got one. I invite you to take your star and place it in your palm. Hold it comfortably where you can see it. Consider it. Can it inspire you? And if not, perhaps consider what word you wish it was and how that path could be different. Humanity has the capacity for reimagining our path. We get to choose what star we follow and where we go from there. And so as we consider the path to peace and love, my friends, I invite you to a time of mindfulness, of path setting, that we may choose the way we will go with intention. I will invite us into meditative moment, begun with a poem and guided by music. Let our mindfulness beget radiance and our stars guide our way. You received a blue sheet, perhaps, that have the poems written. That's for our visual learners. You are not required to read along. I'm going to combine the first and second poem, and we'll have some meditation, and then do the last and some meditation. To all that is chaotic in you, let there come silence. Let there be a calming of the clamoring, a stilling of the voices that have laid their claim on you, that have made their home in you, that go with you even to the holy places, but will not let you rest, will not let you hear your life with wholeness or feel the grace that fashioned you. Let what distracts you cease. Let what divides you cease. Let there come an end to what diminishes and demeans, and let depart all that keeps you in its cage. Let there be an opening into the quiet that lies beneath the chaos, where you find the peace you did not think possible and see what shimmers within the storm. Press your hand to the star-shaped blessing. Here along the side where you can feel its seam. Follow the seam and you will find the hinges on which this blessing turns. Feel how your fingers catch on them, top, bottom, the slightest pressure sending the gate gliding open in a glad welcome. Wait, did I say press your hand to the blessing? What I meant was press your hand to your heart. Rest it over that place in your chest that has grown closed and tight, where the rust with its talent for making decay look artful has bitten into what you once held dear. Breathe deep. Press on the knot and see how it begins to give way, turning upon the hinge of your heart. Notice how it opens wide and wider still as you exhale, spilling you out into a realm where you never dreamed to go, but cannot now imagine living this life without. This blessing had big ideas about what it wanted to say, what it wanted you to know, to see. This blessing wanted to open your eyes to the joy that lives in such strange company with sorrow, wanted to make sure to tell you, lest you forget, that no matter how long it seems absent, no matter how quiet it becomes, joy has never been far from you, holding a space of celebration, watching for you, humming as it keeps vigil. But now that it comes time to speak it, comes time to lay these words on your brow, your beating heart, all this blessing can think to say is, look, your life a candle, this day a match. Strike it and see what blazes, what fire comes to sing in you.
Blessed be our guiding stars.
We have one named prayer concern before us this morning. We hold in our community prayers David Leslie, member who is at Shands, currently being treated for a newly diagnosed autoimmune disease. We pray for others dealing with new diagnoses and no diagnoses and difficult side effects of life-sustaining treatments. We pray for peace in our homes and the world, and for all of those, all of us in the midst of change. Let us pray. God of love, God of epiphany, as we are gathered on this beautiful morning, we give thanks for the many gifts we know, for the gifts of music and story, of musicians and storytellers and artists, of wisdom ancient and ever new, for the gifts of beloved community, for creative, visionary, and steadfast leaders, for those working to create and strengthen the connections between us, for all those whose words and actions help each of us to know that we are loved and welcomed and valued, to know that we belong. For the gifts of stars in our eyes, stars in our hearts, that pull, that invite us, that move and call us to seek something new. Those stars which lodge themselves in our inner eye, which illuminate the recesses of our souls and our world, that cast a light on that which is hidden and forgotten, the vulnerable in our world, the things we regret or carry as shame. Let us give thanks this day for the gifts of the stars that remind us of a brightness that is yet and always possible as we seek to make another way, a way of love and life, of peace and hope, of justice and care, a way of God. Amen. I invite you to rise as you are able in body or spirit or both and join in the singing of our closing hymn. We'll do all the verses, but they're quick.
I invite you to join me in the blessing benediction today. If I could write this blessing backwards, it would start at the end. I would start it from the far place where I could show you every bright thing that lies ahead for you, radiant in its wholeness and completeness in its own joy. For now, all I can offer is this blessing that begins here, in the gap, in the hollow, in the hope that tells us this is how a blessing becomes. This is how a blessing is made from the broken things we travel with from here. Amen.